People think, well, work is the enemy of life. Life is this and work is this. Change the perception. In order to have life, you need the work, and there's got to be this symbiotic relationship that happens between the two.
Where do you see the future of dining in the MENA region?
I think all the big name brands will continue to come here. It'll be interesting to see who succeeds.
What advice would you give those people who want to go down the path of eventually opening a restaurant business?
So, it's not easy, is the first thing. And
For the first time ever, the Chef JKP Podcast is going live. We're going to be at Time Out Market Dubai as we bring the heat with unfiltered, exclusive conversations featuring some of the biggest names in hospitality. Mark your calendars. April 13th, 20th and 27th for 3 unforgettable nights of behind-the-scenes stories, insider secrets and culinary revelations. Want in? We are giving away tickets. All you have to do is follow both Instagram accounts and keep your eyes peeled for your shot at winning a pair. Don't just listen, be part of the experience. Welcome to Season 9 of the Chef JKP Podcast. I'm your host, James Knight-Pacheco, and this season we are bringing you the absolute best minds in the world of food, hospitality, and beyond. Today, we have an episode that you do not want to miss. Joining us this week is a true titan of the industry, a visionary, a powerhouse. On the podcast this week, we welcome Natasha Sideris, founder and CEO of the famed Tashas Group. From her very first steps into the world of restaurants to now leading a global empire with a presence in the Middle East and beyond. Natasha has redefined casual dining with her signature flair for quality, ambience, and innovation. We discuss things like, how did she build this international sensation? What are the secrets behind her success? And what does the future hold for one of the most important and dynamic entrepreneurs in the business? Natasha is a veteran of the industry, and from the get-go, you get to understand as to why she has been so successful. Listen up for a story about some elf ears. Time to rock and roll.
hi, I'm Natasha Sideris, the CEO and founder of Tashas Group. If you like the podcast, make sure to follow, share, and subscribe.
Natasha, welcome to the show. It's an absolute honor to have you here. But as is customary, can you please tell me your first or favorite childhood food memory?
First or favorite childhood memory? I would say, it's actually a funny story. I loved boiled eggs. And my mom had gone, shopping somewhere. It has to be soft boiled eggs. Nothing better than a soft boiled egg with some toast, little toast fingers that you dip in, which is called dippy eggs.
Right.
And my mom had gone shopping, and she came back, and I was in a flood of tears and throwing a tantrum. And my mom said to the lady who was looking after me, why is the baby crying? She said, no, she wants eggs. So my mom said, well, make her eggs. She said, no, she's already had 5 eggs. And actually, I had delicious soft-boiled eggs the other day, and I thought about it. So that would be my first.
And then in regards to the toast, soft, crunchy?
Crunchy toast.
Yeah.
And
some people are very particular,
and
right?
sometimes a bit of Bovril on the toast.
Oh, good work.
Best. I love butter that's melted in, a little bit of Bovril, and then dip it into the egg. Delicious.
So at a young age, you had the umami going on straight away, right?
Exactly.
So then tell me about the types of food you particularly enjoyed growing up with the family, through your teenage time and all that sort of thing.
I come from a nice varied background. So although I'm Greek, My dad was born in Mozambique and my grandparents were Mozambican. So I grew up with a lot of Portuguese cooking. In fact, my dad spoke better Portuguese than he did Greek.
Wow.
And my great-granddad was a fisherman in Mozambique. And they also owned a bakery in Mozambique. So I've got that style of cuisine, Mozambican cooking, bacalhau, the clams, the caldo verde, all of those types of things. And then Greek Cypriot. So Cypriot cuisine is slightly different to Greek cuisine. I've really got some funny stories, but the Cypriots make a soup called trachana, which smells, when it's been made in the process, a little bit like vomit.
Okay.
Because it's milk. It's sour milk with cracked wheat.
And what goes in the soup?
So what they do is they take the cracked wheat, they make sure that the milk is sour, then they bind it together, and then it dries in the sun. So you buy it in bags. It's got a horrible smell. And then when they're making the soup, put that trachana in, a chicken stock. We do grated tomato and halloumi cheese. Quite different to Greek food in many respects.
Right.
So I've got those three types of cuisines that I really grew up with: Greek cuisine, Portuguese, and not so much Mozambican Portuguese.
So when you're talking about the family meals, whether it's on a Sunday or whatever it may be, what was traditionally on the table, on the spread?
Wow, so many varied things. Pasticcio, always a pasticcio on a Sunday. Lamb, roast leg of lamb. If you're doing Portuguese, my dad would do the most amazing grilled prawns on the braai with a peri-peri sauce. So, yeah.
That must be amazing, though, to have the sort of Portuguese element with the South African.
Listen, I love Portuguese food.
And the Cypriot. Like, what a mix.
A nice mix.
Yeah.
I remember my granddad building us a tree house in his garden. And I still today, I don't know how we actually managed it, because we're not a small family and we all love food. And I insisted that we eat lunch in the treehouse. So my grandmother had made pasticcio and yamista, and we had to lug the food up. And there was a table of 6 on this little. It was a large treehouse.
All of you came up
in a big walnut tree. The 2 grandparents, mom, dad, me, and my brother.
Love it.
Yeah. So also a nice adventures around food.
But I know, Natasha, that your father was a chef.
Yes.
So of course you saw him work extremely hard.
Sure.
But during your sort of path towards education, at any point, did you want to get into hospitality, or
Never.
did you avoid it altogether?
I avoided it altogether. My dad worked extremely hard. We'd only see him on a Monday. There was a time where restaurants would close on a Monday. It was a global thing. Everyone would trade Tuesday through to Sunday, and Mondays were the quietest day of the week, and they would close. Certainly in South Africa, it would close. And that was the day that I would spend time with him, and he would take us to what was called the Doll's House, a roadhouse. I don't know why Dubai doesn't have a roadhouse. Maybe that must be my next project. Actually they do. They've got saddles, but I'm talking about a real huge, large roadhouse that does toasted sandwiches and milkshakes and like Dagwoods.
Like a proper old school diner.
An old school diner, and you pull up with your car, roll down your window, and eat your food.
Okay.
So my dad would pick us up from school, and our first thing we'd do is rock up to the Doll's House. And then he would take us to the movies. And that would be the only time that we would really see him. The rest of the time he was in the restaurants, and it was tough. He'd come home with blisters on his feet. Don't forget, he wasn't only a restaurateur, he was also a chef.
Right.
So I said, this is not for me. I'm definitely not going to get involved in the hospitality industry. I'm going to study psychology. I've always had a love for food. I thought I would write a book on street food in Africa and do something a lot more academic. Anyway, my dad opened a restaurant called the Fishmonger, which was the busiest restaurant in South Africa in its time. I'm talking really busy. I'm trying to equate what a fish and chips was in dirhams. You could get a fish and chips for 3 dirhams.
Whoa.
Yeah. And a seafood platter for 10 dirhams. But it heaved. It was packed. And I needed some extra pocket money. And he said, study and then just come and help me a few shifts. So I said, okay, I'll come and help.
How many covers was it?
It was a 300-seater, all bench-style seating. We used to run a queue. We would open the kitchen at 12. People would arrive at 11 o'clock waiting for us to open. And I used to run the front of house, and I would run the queue. Anyway, when you get addicted to that type of adrenaline, and if you love people and making people happy, and you love the hospitality and you like the food, I mean, being in restaurants, if you've got a love for food and design and people, you really are able to do all of those three, the alchemy of it coming together, all three of it, at the same time. So I helped my dad a bit, and then I got hooked.
So when he took over that space,
yeah,
was it already pre-decorated?
No.
Was it the family fully got involved in decorating the space?
So it was part of a group called the Fishmonger, and they had 2 restaurants. And the way it started is it was a real fishmonger owned by 2 Greek brothers. And one day their friends rocked up and said, listen, we always buy fish from you. Won't you just cook us I want to sit and play some tavli with you. Will you just cook us a piece of fish? So the guy goes to the back, because he used to make his own lunch, put the fish in a frying pan, cooked it, and said, I don't have plates. I'm going to eat it out of the pan. And that was the start of a brand called the Fishmonger. They had a bench, and then they got one more bench and another bench, very authentic. And they had 2 branches, and my dad said, listen, I'd like to open the 3rd one. And then my dad became the CEO of that company.
How incredible.
And my first stint at sort of, and I'm doing inverted commas, corporate restaurateuring was with the Fishmonger, because I opened 12 stores for them. I was a baby though.
Oh my God.
A youngster, when I used to have a very bad temper and I throw things around. I'm looking at your Marco Pierre White book there and thinking, the old days. So, yeah.
But when you first started getting into the service, walk me through, if I was a fly on the wall, let's say it was a Saturday night.
Yeah.
300, 400 covers.
And a queue.
No
reservations.
And how do you manage the queue when people are sort of quite angry?
I used to lose my voice. So we would have, and in fact, we still use them in some of the busy restaurants today. Cloakroom tickets.
Right.
Okay. A board. Cloakroom ticket number 1, write your name down. Cloakroom ticket number 2, write your name down. You hold on to the ticket, and then you have to, there were no buzzers those days, and you would have to call the person's name. Susan, number 2, come, present you with number 2, fold it over. I remember going through 3, 4, 5 A4 sheets of paper. I should have kept them, of streams of people coming in and queuing. We would go through two cloakroom tickets on a Saturday, from lunch through to dinner. I used to lose my voice.
Yeah, I bet.
From running the queue.
But you must have enjoyed the buzz of that entire theatre almost.
Well, that is really what got me hooked. So I would go to lectures in the day. I studied psychology and sociology. And I always say it lightheartedly, because I just got my BA, which I count as a bugger all degree. I mean, I didn't really carry on. That's what it stands for, BA, bugger all. And I would go to lectures in the day.
Right.
I'd have my apron in the boot of the car. Rush to work, apron on, graft the whole night, go and party. Of course, I was young.
Yeah.
Till 2, 3 in the morning, go home, sleep, shower, go to lectures, and repeat. And I did that for a long, long time.
So how long was the BA for?
BA was 3 years.
3 years.
And then I did another 6 months of another course.
And what made you decide on those 2 particular subjects?
Psychology, sociology. So I'm always fascinated by the way people behave and understanding human behavior. And then sociology, I like the way the social context of an environment changes and morphs. So this is why I've loved watching the way Dubai has changed. Or I go back to a city like Belgrade. And I would go and visit Belgrade often. I had a little business in Belgrade selling Frizzocino powder to a restaurant chain there. And seeing the way a city evolves and the people evolve. And sociology really, really lets you understand that. So those are, I mean, it's all about people.
But that must have been from an early age, from the fact that you were involved in hospitality from the get-go almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in my dad's restaurant. When we would want to visit my dad, my mom would say, okay, we're going to go visit dad. And we would go, and my dad would be behind the grill line, or he'd be on the floor with guests. So I really grew up literally in the restaurant.
And as you were talking to me, tell me the sort of, when you went to the Roadhouse,
Yeah.
what were the treats that you would have on those particular days?
A Dagwood, toasted steak, hot dog, delicious, double thick chocolate milkshake. Now I've got a funny story for you. So I've got a thing about double thick milkshakes, because that's what we grew up with. And when I say thick, you needed like proper straw to like slurp it.
Yeah.
I mean, a spoon. So we're opening Tashas at the V&A waterfront. And my franchisees are going to kill me for telling this story. But anyway, now you get a sample of how crazy I used to be and passionate. I'm still passionate, but I've lowered my tempo a bit. And we've just opened the Tashas in the V&A. It's December. It's season. It's now packed. We're serving 1,000 people a day. It is heaving. And I say to the franchisees, because we inherited the space,
Right.
not the front of house, the back of house. I said, guys, you need to change your compressor. Your freezer's not freezing. Everything's not frozen solid. I don't want to see these milkshakes going out watery. No, we'll fix it. I said, okay. One day the milkshake goes, I said, guys, I'm warning you, this milkshake, I'm not going to see this thing again. And the rest of the product, I'm worried about the rest of the product. Anyway, day number 2, it is packed. We're running a queue. And I see this vanilla milkshake going out and it looks like a glass of water, like the one I'm holding in my hand.
Uh-oh.
And I lose it. So the franchisee is in his storeroom taking stock. I'm in his freezer taking stock with a storeman. And I start throwing the buckets of the 5-liter ice cream around. There's ice cream on me. There's ice cream on them. There's ice cream on the walls. There's ice cream on the prawns. I'm now standing on the prawn boxes, getting rid of all the stock. Suffice to say, they changed their compressor.
Okay, very good.
Straight away. And we never had a running milkshake again.
They learned the lesson.
Yeah, so I think I've got that because I'm used to those double thick milkshakes. It was called the Doll's House.
Right.
And it was on a road, on a main road, Lubota Avenue, so super nostalgic. And there was they put up a massive doll. Now that I'm thinking about it, it sounds like Squid Games. But imagine the size of the Squid Games doll. And this doll used to wave at people to get them to attract attention to come in. But people started having accidents, so they had to remove the doll off the top of the Doll's House. But when I say it, it had like the best, most delicious food.
Wow.
Just delicious.
But it sounds incredible.
Yeah.
At that time, to have that experience. So then when you finally decided, what was the catalyst for you to say, look, originally the plan was, I'm not going to go into hospitality. I'm not going to do it. I've seen how my father works extremely hard. I'm not going to get into it. You did your degree, which again is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. Sociology is harder than psychology.
Yeah, and it's very studious. You've got to really focus to do these things.
If you ask me to study again now, I would rather walk barefoot from here to Abu Dhabi than study again.
It's that bad?
It's that bad.
Okay.
I don't want to study.
Okay.
In fact, I didn't even look at my notes for today. So you're asking me to study? No, I don't want to.
But forecast and P&L, you're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the major decision you took to then say, do you know what? It's in my blood. I'm going to go ahead and be full-time in hospitality.
So it sort of happened organically because I loved the energy of the fishmonger, and that was totally front of house. Of course, I used to go to the back of house, and my dad was it was a team. Hey? I was in the front, I'd run the front, and my dad was in the back. I remember my dad working through a shift with a broken hand. He got so cross with someone that he slammed his hand on the table and he fractured his hand here, and he carried on the pass. We used to serve 3 tons of calamari a weekend. Tons. That's how packed this place was. It was an anomaly. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it was packed. Anyway, how did I decide? So what happened is Fishmonger approached us.
Right.
Because we were the busiest store, probably the busiest restaurant in the country, and said, listen, will you guys come and work at head office? My dad's CEO and I was like an ops. I knew nothing about real ops at head office level. And that's how the journey started. So I helped them open, as I said, 12 stores.
So how did you manage at such a young age to learn how to manage people, first of all?
I think part of it is, just a raw skill and talent. I love people. And I am able to deal with people at different levels, whether it's, listen, corporate's not so easy, and I hated my time in corporate because I sold 50% of my business to a very big corporate in South Africa that I bought back during COVID, which I'll tell you the story later. But I think my mom was a people's person. My dad was a people's person. When you grow up in a Greek home, there's a lot of socializing. It's a social environment. I was head girl at my school, so I've always been sort of in a leadership role, a bit of a bossy boots.
Your team would never say that. Your team would never say that. But then, if I go forward into 2005,
you decided to open Tashas, the first
Yep.
one. Now, tell me what was happening between 2003 to
Yeah.
2005.
Yeah.
When did you begin to sort of get the concept in your mind?
So what happened was we sold our fishmonger. My dad carried on. We actually put the fishmonger into head office group, into fishmonger head office, and it was then bought by an insurance company. Long story short, we got out of the fishmonger,
Right.
and there was a restaurant for sale called Nino's, which was also part of a chain. And I said to my dad, we didn't come from money, so we had to go to some loan sharks and sell a piece of land in Cyprus and scramble the money together. And we bought the Nino's in 2001.
Right.
And the reason I'm telling you this is because the Nino's was a typical franchise. It was like, it had like 2 salads on the menu, couple of sandwiches. I don't know what to compare it to, like a mass franchise,
Yeah.
okay? So I started running it and I doubled the turnover in 6 months. And what I did is I changed the menu. I started putting on more cafe-style food.
Okay.
And I also changed the way it operated. The waiters used to work on a system where they wouldn't get sections. They would just grab each table that came in.
Pandemonium.
It was pandemonium.
Okay.
So reined everything in. And then I started looking at the South African market and saying, hang on a second. There's themed restaurants. There's a whole lot of mass, which Nino's was sort of a mass brand. And then, takeaways, a lot of fast foods. But there isn't anything in the middle. So there was high-end themed, a lot of mass, but nothing sort of just below very, very high-end and also accessible. And I started working on a concept. Initially, it wasn't going to be called Tashas. We had came up with like 100 names. Eventually, the ladies who still do all of our branding, they've got an agency called AM Studio, and they actually opened in Dubai. They have done all of the branding. They said, Tash, you've got to call it Tashas. I said, but what if it doesn't work? They said, no, it's going to work. And I started putting together this concept of, and I was inspired by the cafes of Australia. Mm-hmm. This light, bright, easy, breezy, accessible luxury, still feels special, not themed. You can get a little bit of everything. Chic and sophisticated, but not intimidating. And I started working on it sort of 3 years into the Nino's.
Okay.
And I got approached from a landlord who said, Tash, I love the way you operate this Nino's, but I want another brand. And I said, I think I've got an idea. Again, I had no money. If I was even in worse debt. Again, I had to go to a loan shark. No bank would bankroll me. I was underfinanced by...
And where in South Africa was that?
Sandton. Yeah. Underfinanced. I think the whole store cost us 5 or 6 million rand, and I was underfinanced by 3.
Right.
So not only had I gotten the initial investment from a loan shark, I was digging myself out of the underfinancing, working from 6 a.m. till 7, 8 at night because it was a day trader only. Initially, Tashas was I only wanted them to be day traders. I wanted them to be daytime cafes. It was a hard time. It was brutal. It was amazing and very rewarding. And that restaurant lasted I think we closed Tashas Athol Square, the very first Tashas, and we didn't close it. The center got knocked down. I mean, we were operating. There was no one around us, and we were still busy. And the landlord decided to bash the center down because nothing else was working. Right. What is it now? Maybe 8 years ago?
But in that time, when it was, let's say, talk me through opening day. Because you knew how to run Nino's, and that was fine. But this was...
My own brand.
Was you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, you being you would have had put the pressure on yourself in a very, very big way.
I was in the kitchen. I was in the back. I was taking... No one was allowed to check in stock. I was the only one that was allowed to check in the orders. So I would receive all my stock, check all the lemons, check all the tomatoes, check everything. Pack my stock away myself. No storeman. Now I always tell my guys, you got it easy. We've got storeman and you've got this and you've got that. My own hands. When that had been done, I'd move over to the pass. every single plate of food. I used to check. When there was a lull, I'd go outside, I'd talk to the guests. It was intense.
How many covers?
Hard.
How many covers was that restaurant?
So that restaurant we had, it was 140 seats in total, so a small little cafe. And there we also used to serve like 1,000 people a day, 1,200 people a day. It was
So that was
run a
breakfast,
queue.
lunch, and dinner.
No dinner,
No dinner.
breakfast and lunch. It was chaos. You talk about running a queue there. There would be people waiting in their cars.
But when did you know that it was
Going to be a hit.
going to be a smash
So
success?
even after, so when I was at Nino's and then I decided to open, we've grown our business, and even today, and I know a lot of people might say that I'm talking nonsense, but it's true. I like to grow everything organically. It has to feel sincere. So like we've just opened Nala now, and there was no big plan for the cookies to be such a hit. I said to Joel, everyone loves cookies. Make a couple of cookies. Let's have them available. And if people like them and they're delicious, great. There's not like big strategy around the cookie thing that's going to happen. It happened naturally and organically. And for me, that's really, really important. I think a lot of stuff today is like very over-engineered. So what happened with Tashas, the first one, there were no plans to open a second, third, fourth. There was no business plan. I'm going to open a cafe. I wanted to be super stylish. It was around the corner from my apartment. I might go back and study, is what I said. I've always wanted to write this book called Street Food Africa. Now, hopefully, I'll have the luxury of doing that. And that was the plan. There was no big plan to go and scale. But after we opened, and I saw that we were delivering something that South Africa had never seen before. They were like, we revolutionized daytime eating in South Africa. We changed the perception of cafe culture in South Africa. There wasn't a cafe culture. We created it. So like 6 months in, 8 months in, I thought, wow, we're onto something. And my landlady in my Nino's said, well, I love what you're doing at Tashas. 2 years in, you have to convert your store. I said, what are you talking about? I've got a franchise agreement with Nino's and I don't have any money. She said, it's not my problem. Just go and sort it out. I want Tashas here.
So that's what they want. So you did that straight away?
So it was 2005, first Tashas. 2008, I converted my Nino's.
Wow.
I had to break my deal with my franchisor.
And how was
and
that?
Pay them. I had to pay. I had to cough. And then I had to go to another loan shark. No money, no bank would. I went to the bank and they were like, who are you? You own like a little cafe. We're not going to give you any money. No money for you. Renovated that store. And when we did the second one, then I knew that I had something. I knew that Tashas could be a brand.
So how far was the first store to the second?
In proximity?
Yes.
Far.
Okay.
Sure. Johannesburg, or Sandton and Bedford View. It's like opening Galleria and past Marina Mall.
Okay.
So it's far
All right.
far away.
So then, because you're not a control freak,
Not at all.
but how did you then have enough trust in your team to then say, okay, I'm going to take this person to the second branch and they're going to run it exactly the same way?
So I had a guy called Peter Otto who's still with me today, and he's actually a franchisee of mine. And Peter opened the store with me, and about a year in, my brother Sava joined me. So I had like 2 massive supports.
Right.
And I left Peter to run Athol, and obviously I'd pop in and out.
Sure.
And then took my brother with me to Bedford View, and then we got that one on its feet. And I would go between the 2, but I had my brother in the one and Peter in the other.
And were the menus the same, or you would change them?
So the idea of changing menus, I'm not a big fan of mass franchising for cafes. There is a space for it, like what we're going to do now with Nala, where there'll be a duplication and a replication. But I wanted Tashas to always be like the anti-franchise franchise. So when I went to my designers, I said, we need to do another Tashas. They're like, okay, well, they'll look like the first one. I'm like, no, I don't want it to look like the first one. I said, what are we going to keep that we love? And you'll notice in every Tashas, there's like a golden thread, the DNA. There's either terrazzo floor or a very unusual tile finish. There's a installation. There's the curve. There's the stucco. And then there's this huge bar and the riveting that runs at a certain height. And that's our formula. So I said, but it's got to feel different and it's got to suit the area we're going to.
Right.
So we tweak each Tashas for the area, like Al Jalila, it's for the kids, it's next to the cultural center. Marina Mall, Cafe Society. Barsha, because we're opposite the park, it looks more like a greenhouse. It's more greeny. So it's like opening a new restaurant every time. It's not so easy. And then each menu, so there's a classic menu, same at all the branches.
Right.
And then each menu's got its own signature menu. So Al Jalila has got more of a kiddies thing for the kids and a healthy component. Then there's more like Cafe Society at Marina Mall. Galleria's got more like a suburban type of thing. And the signatures are even more prominent in South Africa. But each store is unique.
But within South Africa, how many stores did you have before deciding coming to the UAE?
Now you asked me a question. So I came to the UAE 10 years ago, 2014. We opened probably around 8 or 10, maybe 8. And now we've got 17 and opening another 5. Yeah.
So then what made you decide to obviously you had this incredible success with the brand in South Africa. What made you decide to come to the UAE and actually give it a shot? Because it's a bit of a different market, obviously. So
I'll give you the backstory quickly. So what happened is I opened Athol and Bedford. They were mine. They belonged to me. And then a very big corporate, famous brands, the biggest franchising company in South Africa. They own Steers, Debonair's, Mug and Bean. You'll know those brands.
So,
approached me and said, what are your plans for Tashas? So I said, listen, I don't really want a franchise. I want to keep them. I'd like to I went to Investec and they laughed at me. I asked them for a very small amount of money. Now they're offering me money. If anyone's listening from Investec.
Karma.
So Kevin Hedderwick approached me and said, Tash, what do you want to do with this brand? So I said, I want to roll it out, but I don't want to franchise. I want to own them. He says, you're never going to be able to do that. You don't have the capital. And he was correct. There was no capital. He said, let's partner. You can plug into our franchising model, not the stuff that the customer sees. So not the tables, the chairs, not the food, the back end, franchise agreements, the corporate structure, like all of that type of stuff. Come and plug into our system and let's partner. So I sold actually 51% of my brand to them.
Ooh, right.
And I was in partnership with them for 12 years and COVID hit and I bought them out. So we own the business now 100%.
Okay.
But it was very good learning. I mean, I think to scale a business, you need to have some discipline in terms of corporate governance. And I think, I asked an individual who works for us, they had worked at another group and now they're working for us. And I said, what's like the difference? Because I'd like to know. And they said, Tasha still feels like a family and it's fun and it's great. But you know that there's a level of, it has to be a little bit corporate. You need process, you need procedure, you need systems. And I learned that from Famous Brands. So I'll circle back to your question. So what happened is I opened a few with Famous Brands and a lot of people from different countries started to approach me. So I had been approached by London, United States, Australia, and Dubai. And because I am a control freak, I thought United States and Australia are out. Different time zone. How am I going to get there?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about those markets. And the main thing was the time zone. The UK, I was petrified, and rightly so, because it's very tough. We've got one store there now. It's still tough. High barriers to entry, difficult to staff, rentals are a nightmare. It is tough.
Very challenging.
So Dubai, to me, seemed like a logical choice because it's 2-hour time difference with South Africa. I knew that if there was a problem in the store, because I hadn't decided to move yet.
Right.
So I came, set it up, and then I was commuting between Dubai and SA. I knew it wasn't going to be such a headache. And if there was a problem in the evening, I could be here in the morning. And then also, you say it's different to South Africa, but in many respects, it's quite similar. It is a mall culture when the weather's not great. It's a driving culture. We're not It's not a city where it's not a walkable city.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, you're going to go for a beautiful walk on Kite Beach, but you're not going to walk from here to downtown. South Africa is the same. You got to get in your car to drive. And when I entered Dubai 10 years ago, the food landscape was very similar, hey? I mean, it's changed. It's so amazing to see the change. But 10 years ago, it was super high-end, talking about the Zumas, the LPMs. It was all of those players. And then there was a lot of mass, like a lot of big groups and big brands that had like a lot of scale. There wasn't really anything like Tashas. Maybe there was like one or two, but not really. And I thought, okay, this is where we need to be.
So what was the final sort of nail in the coffin when you were like, okay, you decided to come to the UAE?
I drove my partner mad about sites. I think he still tells the story. He must have shown me 40 locations.
Whoa.
And I came here for a year and a bit of recce. Like I was just checking. Where do we want to be? Guys, Beach Road 10 years ago, there was hardly anything on it. There were like very little. City Walks and Wassel, City Walks and Galleria Mall, there was like nothing around me. They had just started City Walks 1. That area where there was like a whole lot of the houses around. So it was a very different place, I mean, as you know. So what made me decide on Galleria? It was, I think Shahab Lutfi and H&H are visionaries in what they do. It was the first strip mall really of its kind, if you think about it. So there was Dubai Mall, Mall of the Emirates, the bigger malls, the Mercatos and that type of thing. But in terms of like a really uber stylish strip mall, Galleria was a pioneer in that strip mall.
Sure.
They really were. And a lot of our locations in South Africa are in that type of strip mall. He offered me a location where I was part of the mall but sort of standing alone. I walked outside onto the building sites. I saw the mosque ahead of me. I walked across the road. I looked back, and if you look at it, it's the mosque's there, and the Burj Al Arab's like right. I mean, the Burj Khalifa's right behind us. Energetically, I just loved that whole like the cross section of having the mosque and the Burj behind, and I said, "This is it. This is where we're opening." I remember we had a bender of a night. We had gone out, my brother and I, totally hungover. He couldn't even get out of bed. Actually, we went out with our partner, and I think he had left us like at 10 o'clock in the evening, and my brother and I continued. We had some friends from Greece. And I said, you need to come and look at the sites. He's like, no, not today. You keep rejecting them, not getting out of bed. I go, I meet Mubarak, and my eyes are like bloodshot. Oh my God. And I'm looking at the sites. I phoned my brother. I said, okay, we're opening. He said, what are you talking about? I said, no, this is where we're going to open. This is it. She said, but you hung over. And I haven't even seen it. I said, Sav, trust me. So he gets in the car, comes to look at it. He says, no, you're right. This is it. So I phoned Famous Brands because I was still in partnership with them.
Yeah.
I said, we're signing our first location in the Middle East.
And they were good.
You know what? I had ultimate control at Famous Brands.
Very good.
It was a lot of swimming upstream because when you're in a very big corporate, they don't necessarily understand the entrepreneurial spirit and the quick decision making. And there's like a lot of red tape. I suppose it's like working in a hotel. There's like, got to jump through a lot of hoops, but they did give me independence. There was some fight about certain things, like wanting to supply. I don't like central kitchens, and they would want to like make our sauces in a central kitchen and supply them into the restaurant. I would never allow that. All our salad dressings still today, and until today, are still made on order, fresh in the restaurants. We don't have a lot of mise en place, so there was those types of fights.
Right. Okay.
And the rest is history. We opened Galleria. It was nerve-wracking. Day 1, empty. Day 2, empty. Day 3, empty. And I remember phoning one of my mentors, Mike Nunn, and saying, Mikey, what are we going to do? I don't know if this thing's going to work here. He said, Tash, forget about it. And it's such good advice. Stop stressing, go back in and focus on the 2, 3, 4 customers that are there and keep your staff motivated. Guys, day 5, this thing starts heaving. I mean, I remember working one day for 17 hours. I didn't even get a chance to go to the toilet. It was just like packed. And I was phoning Mubarak, we need more staff. And we had, it was like a quota. We couldn't get more staff.
Oh yes, of course.
Remember, we had the quota system. We couldn't just hire.
Yes.
And we had hired a certain amount, and it was chaos.
So did you bring some staff from South Africa?
So that's our rule. Whenever we go to a new country, we have to bring in a certain percentage. It's a little bit more difficult in the UK, but even there, there's a hospitality and a warmth that comes from where the brand is originally from. Whether that would have been South Africa or here or whatever, where the founding ethos and the DNA of the brand comes from. And if you can transport that into store number 1, and then that store gives it to store number 2. So we had 30%, 25, 30% of the staff from South Africa. And the staff in Dubai that we hired, we flew them to SA and they trained for a month.
No way.
I have still got, I'd say at least 50% of the staff from the original Tashas 10 years ago in Dubai are still working for me, maybe more. I should actually do the exercise. Wow. They are still with us.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And we flew them. We flew them to SA, so they learnt the Tashas way.
Right.
And then we had our South African team flying over, who are still part of it. And I'd say every store has got maybe 15, 20 staff members that have come from that original.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But then when you opened the Galleria and then it started, doing some serious numbers.
Very serious numbers.
How was it first sort of taken by the locals, the Emiratis, first of all, because they weren't used to having that sort of style of dining, that beautiful
screaming lady in the kitchen.
Okay.
Mubarak would come to me and say, "Sweetheart, you can't shout. You're not in South Africa, and they're gonna think something's wrong with our food. You can't be screaming in the kitchen. They're gonna think something's wrong with the food. So just, keep quiet." People loved it from the get-go, but I think even more so is I sort of made Dubai my home early on when we realized that it was going to be as busy as it was. My brother and I were here all the time. I think, and that still applies today. I think whether it's expats that are living here or the Emiratis themselves, if they see an operator is committed to running their business and they're in their restaurants and their teams are in the restaurants, that makes for a loyal customer. I think a lot of brands come to Dubai for a hit and run. They see it as a place where they can charge a lot. Big names come in and are not backed by operators, and then it's transient. I mean, it's where I live. Dubai's my home now. So for me, I think the hands-on operating and taking the restaurant seriously, not only as a business, but as a place to make people happy, as a place to make sure that your product's right. That's longevity. I mean, Galleria is 11 years old next year. We're about to renovate it. Flamingo Room, 7 years old. And Dubai is a very competitive market and is getting more and more competitive.
Yeah, but I was going to say, look, if I look at Flamingo Room, from a design perspective, absolutely stunning interiors.
Thank you.
But then, why did you decide to then, branch out and then go into and open Flamingo Room?
Yeah, so I'm very creative. I love interiors and design, and I love different cuisines. So what happened is we started getting offered lots of locations, and you can't put a Tashas everywhere, and I don't want to bastardize Tashas. I don't want it to be on every corner. And bastardize is not the right word. It's not the type of brand that can go everywhere. So we would get offered locations, and locations would either come to us or I'd hear of a location and I'd be like, can't put a Tashas there. And I've always wanted to flex a little bit and show that the group and the team can do more than just cafe style food.
Okay.
We can do a little bit more elevated. We can do Greek. We can do Riviera beach, not beach club, but beach restaurant. And now we're trying our hand at fast casual. So a big part of it's creativity, and the other part is opportunity. So, finding a site, like the Nikki Beach one that no one wanted to touch. I was so nervous of that site. It's one of them. It's amazing.
But who approached you from Al Naseem to sort of open there?
At Flamingo Room, Shahab. Got a very, very good relationship with Shahab, and he actually developed that Turtle Lagoon. It was under, and I don't know if it was called H&H those days, and it was his development. And
but because it's a beautiful location.
Beautiful, not an easy box, eh? People don't realize, because it's actually 3 spaces. It's actually 5 spaces, because the entrance is a space. Then you've got a box to the right and a box to the left. The 2 dining rooms with a collective. And then you've got 2 terraces. So not easy to create like a homogeneous experience that can create vibe. Most restaurants are like in a single box. If you look at our neighbors at Beef Bar, El Boro, Maya Bay's also got split. It's got that split, so not easy to operate.
But from the culinary perspective, what did you decide early on that you wanted to have on the Flamingo Room? Yes.
So Flamingo Room's all about nostalgia. I'm an old-fashioned girl. I don't have social media on my phone. I deleted Instagram. Now it's going to be year 5. I wanted Flamingo Room to reflect my dad's old cookbooks, like nostalgic cooking, the old glamour of a time where a coq au vin was something special, or a lobster thermidor, all retro dishes, an avarit, a beef Wellington. So not drawing from any particular country,
right,
but certainly drawing from nostalgic food.
The classics
and glamorous classics. And then some of the dishes got, of course, a little bit of an African touch, but nothing too obvious, because I think African food's polarizing, and it's not and I hope it does become, because there's if you go to London, there's some guys who are doing amazing, bringing African food to the people. And we try to do that at African Lounge more. But it's not a cuisine that you're going to wake up every day and say, well, I'm going to go and eat African food. So Flamingo Room's much more international, much more nostalgic, and it's got the good old classics on it.
And when the chef did the cook-off, how many dishes originally were on the menu before you really sort of knuckled down and had the final say?
If you know the process that we go through on the menus and how I drive my team around,
tell me
the bend. So we create a brief. Okay, well, I create the brief. Then they've got to go away and they've got to do research. And I'll, at the same time, also be doing research. Research's got to come from magazines, cookbooks, and their own memories.
Right.
And, of course, they're allowed to look on social media, but I try and discourage them, because I think the world is becoming very homogenized, and cuisine is becoming very either overly viral or overly homogenized. I think nothing beats a cookbook, a travel memories from your childhood to put food on the table. So the guys will go away, then they'll come back to me and say, are we on the right track? And I'll say, this dish is, this isn't, this isn't.
Okay.
So that they come with a whole lot of cutouts.
Right.
Still paper.
Very good. Good.
Everything's got to be paper and pen for me, and I still want to feel the paper. So they'll create a file, and I'll say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Then they'll start the cook-offs, and I taste every single dish. So there'll be 3, 4, 5 cook-offs before we get to a menu. And then even till the end, we're tweaking and refining. And that process still happens today. My culinary director, Jill, said, this year, are you still going to taste every single dish? So I said, I'm going to taste every single dish until it's physically impossible. Yeah, I am. So,
yes, Jill. I'm going to taste everything.
Everything. Listen, I trust them implicitly.
Yeah, no, of course.
So I mean, often if they're doing a dish on the cafe menu and I'm traveling somewhere, they'll send me a picture and I'll say, thank God I've got that skill. I said, guys, I don't think it looks right, and maybe you put too much whatever in this.
Okay.
I can do it from a photo.
Brilliant.
But at some point, I'm going to taste it. There's nothing that's gone on the menu that I haven't tasted. That you can see, obviously. It shows why I don't lose any weight.
But look, Natasha, 2025, you've got over 10 brands, over 40 locations.
Yeah, 39.
39.
Yeah.
I'm sure 40 will be.
It's coming very.
We've
got another 14 this year.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, so I'm a chef by trade. I wanted to understand, one restaurant is challenging enough, but the direction of 10 brands at the same time. Now thinking about it, having your sort of bloodline through each menu is not easy. How do you manage that, and how do you put that onto the team in order for them to execute that?
So I've got an unbelievable team, and most of the guys at head office have been with us for years and years. Stefano's been with me for 10. Anthony has been, and they're not on the creative, they're more on the corporate side. Jill's been with me for a good 8 years. Christian, been with me forever. Sasha in South Africa, also, going on 10 years. So you got to choose the right team, okay? They've got to accept. All of them have got their own personalities and styles, but I think the way we work together, there's an acceptance that I am an interferer and I want to put my hands on everything, which can be frustrating for a lot of people. But I think we've got such an amazing dynamic now that the guys are, we work together more than like a boss employee. It's like we colleagues. We audit the stores a lot. So most franchises, and I own the restaurants in the Middle East, and in South Africa I own 3 and the rest are franchised.
Right.
So, but I own the brand.
Okay.
We've got a massive team that audits front of house and back of house. Most franchisors will audit a store once a quarter.
But what does that mean when you say audit? Not just the
Everything.
finances, you're talking about everything.
It's called an SOE. It takes 8 hours. Taste all the sauces. Check all the ingredients through the back door. See how they're making stuff. Check the product. Go to the front of house. Taste the coffee. Taste the drinks. Are the windows clean?
That's for every single
unit. Every single unit. How often do you think?
I'll say once a month.
Twice a month.
Twice a month. Wow.
Twice a month.
But that's how you get it so consistent then.
Yeah, listen, we're humans. We make mistakes. But auditing and training are at the heart of everything. So someone came to me the other day and said, listen, do you think we're over auditing? Should we cut the audits down and do an audit once every month or maybe once every 2 months? I said, no, we can't do that. Because when a store knows, whether you own the store or not, that you're coming in and you've got, it's all electronic.
Right.
And we've developed a special app.
Okay.
And you're going to be checked and you're not receiving the right lemons, or you try to jippo with a supplier and because you want to get a better food cost and you're taking a shortcut on the meat, or you're not making your bolognese properly, or you whatever, you're going to get audited. And then you're going to be either, if you own the restaurants, in the douane, or if you're a franchisee, you're going to get the franchise agreement thrown at you. I'm talking about
but
funny things. My franchisee from Morningside, it's Athol, Bedford, Melrose, Morningside, so store number 4 in South Africa. We've just started franchising. And he's a foodie. And he's an unbelievable chef. His name's George. He's Greek. And he decides he doesn't like those days tramazzinis were in fashion.
Okay.
He doesn't like the pizza, and he wants to try another crushed tomato. And I've got a specific brand of crushed tomato. And he's going to try and do his own thing.
Uh-oh.
So I go into the store. I said, George, listen, because I used to do the auditing those days. I'm warning you. Don't do this, because I'm going to confiscate your stock. Yeah, whatever. Go back to the store like a week later and still got it. I said, okay, no problem. Open the boots of my car, said to the staff, come, bring the sausages, the salsicha, bring me the crushed tomatoes, bring me the this, and bring me the unspec chicken breast, load everything in the boot of my car, drive across the road. And in South Africa, poverty's rife and there's people begging on the streets or whatever. I open the boot of the car, I phone George, I said, George, look across the road. So he comes outside, he's looking at me across the road, and I'm handing his stock out to the people. He says, what are you doing? I said, unspec product, I warned you, now I'm going to give it away. So we're very strict. We are strict. You have to. There's no democracy in franchising. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, and you have to get your franchisees involved. You do need to hear their inputs because they're on the ground. But when there's a rule that you make, everyone has to step in line, whether they're a manager or a franchisee, because otherwise it's just going to be chaos.
Is that something that you learned previously when you were working with the previous company?
Yeah. Because when things are too lax, things get diluted. Because everyone's got an opinion about what the best coffee is, or everyone's got an opinion on how to make a sauce, or everyone's got an opinion on how to either take a shortcut on something or make something their own version.
Right.
Now, if I allow every single operator, manager, or franchisee or whatever to try and do that, eventually you lose control. So there can only be one rule, and everyone's got to follow it.
But then, Natasha, when I think about what you're doing and all of your brands, you have that specific recipe, you know what works, what doesn't, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So then what made you go into a bull pit such as DIFC and then you've opened an incredible, Avli by Tashas Galaxy Bar next to it. Both have won incredible awards. What made you sort of go into that sort of higher echelon of dining?
So I call the DIFC like the World Cup soccer finals, or like
Formula One.
Formula One of restaurants. In fact, a fellow restaurateur from South Africa called me, Nick Kiros, and he said, "Are you cooked?" He said, "You were opening next to LPM." So I said, "Yeah." He said, "What are you doing?" So I said, "Oh, I'm going to give it a twirl. I'm going to try." Avli is my most proud moment of my career in terms of challenge. So my current partner, well, my business partner in the Middle East, Mubarak, had the location. And I said to Mubarak, "Please give it to me."
Okay.
I would have been one of the first Greek that would have opened in Dubai. And he said, "No, I want Spanish." I said, "Listen, I'm going to give you Spanish. It's not food that I understand. I can put on a Spanish dish, like in Albertine, we've got a paella, but I don't understand Spanish food intrinsically." Mm-hmm. I said, "No one's doing Greek in terms of that style of dining. Let's do Greek." No, I want Spanish. He went off and did it with it. I said, "Mubarak, we know each other. We love each other. When we fight, it's like for half an hour, and then we've got a good understanding. You do this side of the business, I do this side. Let's do it." No, I want Spanish. I said, "Go ahead." And he opened La Luz. I don't know if you remember it. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it didn't work. And so I think 2 years in, he phoned me. He said, "Sweetheart, I made a mistake. Take it." So I said, "Okay." I said, "We've got to gut this thing. I've got to change the entrance. We're going to have the entrance by the side door. We've got to have the entrance as you're coming up from the valet. We've got to open it up. We've got to bash that wall at the back. Got to move I said, "This thing's going to be expensive." I said, "And what you're currently using as your storeroom, I want to change it into like a little nightclub."
But you were not involved in La Luz at all?
Nothing.
Right?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. No. So he said, "Okay, let's do it." So we spent a lot of money. DIFC, traditionally, if you look around, is more white tablecloth setting, besides Zuma at that stage. And I decided to take the tablecloth off.
Controversial.
Very controversial. I had souvla, which was slow cooked meat in Cyprus. It's crispy on the outside and juicy on the inside, but it's crispy. If I say slow cooked to someone else, they're thinking fall off the bone, shank.
Yeah.
So we opened with, my brother and I spent a fortune on the souvla machine. They custom made it in Dubai, built it into the kitchen. You couldn't even we had to get angle grinders to get it out. So we opened with a souvla. First of all, no one understood because it's not typical Greek. It's not blue and white and dancing thing.
Smashing plates.
It's Athenian.
Yeah.
And it's an ode to the sophistication of Athens and the aristocracy of Athens. That's what Avli is, And
why the name?
Avli means courtyard. And so when we opened up the back and we've got the washing line, and it's quite a small, Avli's a tiny restaurant. I don't know if everyone knows, but it's only got 120 seats. So compared to I think LPM's also quite small, but compared to all the other guys, they're all like 140, 160, 180, 300. Yeah. It's a baby. It's a small restaurant. And anyway, people weren't getting it. And one night I walk in and I can feel the customers are agitated and the waiters are agitated. I'm like, "Guys, what's going on?" Start picking up the dockets, and the ordering time from starters to by the time they got the slow cooked meat,
right,
there was too much of a lag. And because I make things on order and I didn't want meat to be like just sitting there for ages, I was like, "Guys, pull it, cut it, it's over. We're not going to do souvla anymore."
Okay.
I'm going to reinvent the menu. They had to come with angle grinders and grind because it was cold, eh? We used to feed a fire. The guys had jackets on with ice packs in. We were feeding fires. Angle grind this thing, put a grill inside, work the menu. Took a year for Avli to get busy.
Okay.
I know and maybe they're listening to the podcast, they'll remember. But I know that a lot of the operators were taking bets that that site was jinxed and that Avli and Galaxy Bar were going to close. And I worked it. Again, open, close, open, close, open, close. I kept telling the staff, it's going to turn, people will get it, it's going to happen.
It's a lot of self-belief, though, Natasha.
Like, right? No, it's hard.
You have to have that vision and drive.
You have to, and you need to be able to adapt. You can't be stuck. Right. You can't say, well, it's going to work, and carry on doing the same thing. So we would tweak the menu, change the menu, activated the bar a little bit more, did the snacks around it. Like, we really worked it, had events. We did collabs with people. We worked it.
But also the hospitality piece.
And the hospitality. And eventually, all of a sudden, we start getting 100, 150 people for lunch, for the business lunch. I think we've got one of the most successful business lunches. The dinners start to pick up. And what I love most about Avli is that the party wasn't planned or forced. Avli's party vibe on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night happened totally organically. It wasn't like, come in, 10 o'clock, turn the music on, force people to have fun, and then it happened naturally. There's a place in Mykonos called Interni, which also opened as a restaurant, and over time it became a party place late. And I love that Avli, my DJ Vasily, he's a master. So he'll turn up the music slowly. He'll read the crowd. Sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes it's not. It depends on the night. It's not like this forced thing that has to happen. It happens naturally. So Avli's it's like a war story for me, because I thought I was going to close in the World Cup soccer finals in the F1.
Right.
At one point I thought, oh my God, is this thing ever going to get busy? And am I going to be humiliated that I've come to the DIFC and actually I don't have what it takes? Thankfully, that's not the case.
Well, no, I mean, I was going to say, the other thing is that is quite astounding is that, as you said, you've almost got this beautiful little sort of cubbyhole, Galaxy Bar, which is in World's 50 Best Bars, and it's won award after award after award. Was that intentional, or was that just purely because of the team?
So what happened is we had this weird space that they had tried to make private dining at La Luz, which never worked, and then it was their storage. They were keeping all their stuff inside it. And actually, Christian, who's our beverage director, was having a meeting with Nick Reese from, I don't know who he was working for, I forget the names. Anyway, and they were trying to sell Metaxa at Flamingo Room.
Right.
And I looked at the bottle, I was like, Metaxa was trying to make an entry into the Middle East in the market. And I thought, actually, I know what we're going to do. Metaxa, it's Greece's amber spirits. It's from the 1800s. It's unbelievable. Let's open a Metaxa bar. We do a pitch. We fly to Athens. We go on a tour of Athens with a team. Christian, my interior designers, my stylist, my brother. We do all the shopping for Avli. Go to the Metaxa, pitch this Metaxa bar. That's why it's Galaxy Bar and it's got the 12 stars at the bottom. 12-star Metaxa. Do a whole menu around it. But in terms of why it was successful, I give credit to the team. I'm not a bar operator. I gave the direction. But in terms of the way it was operated and Christian getting into 50 Best and being so. And now we've got a Galaxy Bar cocktail book coming out.
Incredible. You'll
be able to buy the book soon. I think we're launching in September. And it's unbelievable. It's got all of the recipes inside it.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's the team. They did an amazing job.
But look, throughout the years, the other thing is that yourself and the team have had so many incredible awards. Mm-hmm. Are these important to you? Do they add value to the business? Is it more for the team?
So everyone's got ego. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not nice to get an award. It's amazing. Do we lobby and pay for awards? Never. Do we take out adverts? Never. And if we're going to win something, do we enter an award? I'm sure our PR agency does enter us for awards, but we don't pay. And if we're going to win, we win, I believe, on merit. And yes, it is nice to win, and obviously nice for the team to. It's a recognition for them to say, well, you know, this is a result of all your efforts. But the biggest reward, besides an award, is your customers. You know, customers saying, listen, we love what you do. We love that it's authentic. We love that it's real. We love the hospitality. We love the food. That's the daily reward, more than the big ones.
No, I agree.
But amazing to get the big one, obviously.
But when it comes to then, Natasha, you're obviously an incredibly busy person.
Oh my God, so busy.
So when it comes to the wellness of yourself and the wellness of your team, how do you manage both? Because the success of the business, of course, relies on yourself because you are that bloodline that runs through it. But also, it's the team, every single member of staff that you have on your books, they make the difference.
Exactly.
So how do you do that?
So let's start with the team. We started about a couple of years ago doing sports interventions with the team. We do motivational talks. So we get people to come in and give a motivational talk. Last year or the year before, we had a guy called Richard Sutton, who is a stress coach. And he's got 4 best-selling books, and he'll come and talk to the leadership who then filter down to the team. We also do not-so-healthy things. I'm closing all of my restaurants. I closed last year for a day, 0 turnover in all the stores, get into trouble with some of the landlords and throw them a huge party.
I've seen the rumors.
Well, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening soon. It's happening very soon. It's sort of 1,000 people getting together to celebrate. It's me saying thank you and flying over like proper DJs from Mykonos. I think this year we're going to fly in a DJ who opened for Kaina Musik.
No way.
Yeah, she opened for Kaina, and I think we're bringing her in. I'm trying to wrap up the deal now.
Okay.
And then this year again we'll do all the sports. So we do like corporate sports, paddle, that type of thing. And then for myself, I'm good and then I'm bad. So when I'm very, very stressed, then it's all just work.
Right.
Now, most of the openings this year are going to happen towards the end of the year. So I'm trying to cycle a bit in the morning, ice bath, sauna. But anyone who says that they're going to be in hospitality and do it seriously and they're going to have a lot of balance, I think they're lying. I don't see how. Because unless you're in a corporate environment and you're just touching on a few aspects, but if you're a person like me who's involved in the corporate side of the business, the interiors, the food, the marketing, the people, then I don't know how I'm going to find balance. My friend came and said, when's the last time you had like a Sunday off? So I said, no. But I love it. I think there's a problem in the world where, and I hope I'm not going to upset any Gen Zers when I'm saying this, but work is not the enemy of life. And I think that there's this thing that's happened where a lot of young people feel like work is this thing that sits here and then your life is here. And I'm not saying you mustn't have balance. I'm not sitting here and saying I'm a martyr. But if you don't change the perception of that people think, well, work is the enemy of life. Life is this and work is this. And you don't see that in order to have life, you need the work, and there's got to be this symbiotic relationship that happens between the two, then actually that internally causes a lot of frustration. And for a long time, I did feel like that. So I'd be like, I'm going on holiday. I don't want anyone to talk to me. Leave me alone. Don't speak to me. Or if I was taking a day off, like just, if you've got that thing that works like this nasty, horrible thing that's inflicting pain on your life, then that's not very pleasant. And when I reconciled that actually work isn't the enemy of life, that I love what I do and it's a gift and I'm lucky, then it makes things a lot easier. It's a joy for me.
I have a question for you. So the reason we did this podcast originally, it was from an educational perspective where I wanted to showcase the truth behind working in hospitality. Not just like the great parts, no, just about the brutality of working 20 hours a day, so on and so forth. Now, when it comes to hiring nowadays, and you must have seen this specifically in London and different markets, a lot of people, when they interview, they will turn around to you and say, well,
I need work-life balance.
I need work-life balance. I need this, that, and the other. But the other thing is, for me, hospitality and restaurants gives life to the world.
Exactly.
Because this is where you talk, this is where you share, this is where you celebrate. Everything incredible happens over breaking bread, in my opinion.
Exactly.
And our industry is almost the lifeline for all these things. And when you look at what happened in COVID and when you came out of COVID, the explosion of everyone just wanting to come out and then respect restaurants a lot more. And I think we're in real danger to almost lose that.
Yeah.
Specifically when you were talking about this work-life
Yes.
balance scenario.
Well, because people aren't prepared to, certainly people who come and work want and demand the work-life balance. But, and again, I'm not saying we expect our staff to work 20 hours a day. There's the reasonable working hour. But if you are expected to work a couple of extra hours because it's packed and it's humming, then we'll remunerate you. You'll get paid for it. But don't think that you're going to clock watch and be off at 5 o'clock, because it isn't an office job. Sorry, it just isn't. And if you decide to get involved in hospitality,
Right.
you need to understand need to come with a bit of grit and a bit of passion, because feeding people is about being passionate and hospitality. And that is going to come with a little bit of a sacrifice.
But at the same time, use your common sense, people. When there is going to be overtime, it's fine, but also think about your team.
Exactly.
Right?
Listen, we've been very lucky. It was tough in London. I think my brother still got PTSD from that opening.
Oh, gosh.
It's hectic, but because we brought the Dubai team and the South African team, we paid for their visas.
Right.
Now they are leading and showing the other people who are employed who work clock watchers, actually, guys, you're working for a great company. You're going to get compensated. Don't stress. So now they are teaching that you learn from people. So that work ethic will rub off.
They need
eventually.
to wake up a bit, I think.
I think so.
Now, you're talking earlier on about cookbooks, and you're working with a really incredible photographer, Jules Dune.
She's unbelievable.
She's amazing, and she's got the most incredible eye.
Unbelievable. And good bandwidth.
Yeah, absolutely.
She can do a lot.
Now, when you started writing the books that you did, again, with so many different ideas, so many different stories, how was the whole process of actually managing to put everything into these two beautiful books?
So the first one, because and I work with two photographers. Here I work with Jules, and in South Africa I work with a gentleman called David Ross. And then we have our stylist, Nikki Gregg, who does the styling. And initially it was my brother and I used to do all of the styling. We wanted to control everything. There's a book called Blitzscaling. And the guys who started Airbnb, one of the things that stuck in my mind was the guys from Airbnb used to set up the Airbnbs that they were renting themselves. They would go and prop them up and decorate them themselves and take their own photographs. And someone said, how long are you going to do this for? And one of the answers was, I'm going to do it until I can't do it anymore. So we used to do all the photographic styling until we just couldn't anymore. I cooked every single dish until store number 10 and trained until store 10. All of the food and all of the cooking. Anyway, I'm digressing. So, what are we talking about? Sorry.
The cookbook.
The cookbook. So, we were lucky with the first one because every store we open, we take photographs of the interiors and the food.
Right.
So I had a collection of the classics from when we had first opened. So the first cookbook was really the story of how we started Tashas, the relationship with my dad being a restaurateur, the influence of my grandparents, and every recipe has got some sort of anecdote or story in it. It was a labor of love, but it wasn't so difficult to put together because we had the IP, we had the stuff. I don't think we had to shoot another 2 or 3 recipes. It was a matter of compiling it and designing it. The second cookbook, that big one, Tashas Inspired, we thought, well, we've got other photos. We'll just do a second book. But because I'm also very creative and a bit crazy, I said, actually, guys, we're going to change tack. I want artwork in the book. We have to reshoot every single recipe. I want the art to make sense in the chapter, and I want music.
Beautiful.
We shot it. How big is the studio? The space we shot it in is half the size of the studio.
Right.
A little test kitchen, and we built props. So for the Spanish affair, we went and got Spanish tiles. We built things. We built like a little tapas table. For a day in the country, I went and got a big armoire and hung white curtains. That thing is not shot in different locations. That book is shot in one space and we built props. Took a year.
A year.
1 year.
But what an incredible book.
I love it. It's really good. And then all the artwork in each chapter, and then the music that goes with it. Galaxy Bar is also going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Got to get one delivered to you.
I'm looking forward to
No, it's really
that,
good.
really.
Not easy cocktails. I said to Christian, can anyone use this? He said, listen, there's some recipes that are easy.
Yeah.
Can't just be nice to look at. But no, if you're interested in bartending and mixology, top book.
Wow.
And then I think next one will be Flamingo Room.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be another
I think
beautiful
so.
one.
Yeah.
So then you spoke about Nala. Now, this is your latest opening. And again, it's probably been open for 2 hours, and it's still just phenomenal, super busy.
Yeah.
People are talking about it. There's a real buzz going on. What made you go into that sort of space?
Okay, so fast casual. We've never done it before. Again, another challenge. But also because, again, I saw a gap globally for a place that you can go to the counter, order your food or order off the phone. Your food's going to come in under 8 minutes. We're getting there. So this has been our opening month. I think we're under 10 minutes at the moment. Under 8 minutes. A varied menu. So most fast foods are going to be singular. So you're going to get burger, fries, fried chicken burger, all grilled chicken, or you're going to get pizza.
Right.
And I thought, why can't you have a varied menu like Tashas? Obviously not the size of the Tashas menu. Get the food out really quickly. Make it on order. And obviously in Al-Sakal we don't have the booze component. But imagine we were doing this podcast at the end of the day. Or now we want to go for lunch.
Yeah.
But we've only got 20 minutes. We don't have the luxury of going to a Tashas or the luxury of going to an Avli, which is going to take 45 to an hour to potentially an hour and a half. But we still want to be in a very stylish, luxurious environment, but have all the speed of a fast food, of a fancy canteen. That's what we're calling it.
Right.
And I kept looking around and searching, and there wasn't anything like it. And I said, well, let's give it a twirl. Small spaces, whether they'll be small or big in the future, we don't know. No waiters, either order at the counter or, as I say, off the app, and have a little bit of a breakfast, a couple of pizzas, some nice salads, and 2 pastas, and some great drinks. I think the branding's genius. I think it's unique and different, and I think the messaging. I mean, I mustn't get it wrong now. Chic enough for a good date and fast enough for a bad one. Chic enough for a great date,
nice.
Fast enough for a bad one. So that's why we developed it.
And why that location?
I love Al-Sakal. I think what they've done is unbelievable. A building community. Like now we're going to do something with the guys from Carney Store. I think the festivals that they put up, the focus on the arts, the investment in the actual property. I mean, that courtyard that we're in is just so beautiful. I think the team there just do a fantastic job. And for us, it was the most logical because my training academy is there. So Nala's at the front.
Right.
And if you don't go to the bathroom and you go to the other door, behind is my tasting room, Jill's kitchen.
Right.
She does all culinary development from there. Christian's beverage. She does all beverage development. We've got training facilities upstairs and some office space. So that's where...
So it made sense.
Al-Sakal said, listen, we can't give it to you as office space and we can't give it to you only for culinary development. You have to activate the front. So I said, well, I've got this brand and I want to bring it to Al-Sakal first. And that's the birth. And I couldn't have wished for a better location. I think Al-Sakal gives you a microcosm of Dubai culture in one place.
Oh, 100%.
So if you said, like, a lot of people have got a different perception of Dubai, that it's all glitz, it's all glamour, it's all whatever. And when you go to Al-Sakal, you see a bit of the glitz and glamour, but you also see the hipster, and you also see the local Emirati, and then you also see the families, and then you also see the people with their dogs. It's like a little carve out of all Dubai people coming together in one place.
No, it's amazing.
So yeah.
And then what's the plans for that specific brand? Do you want to take it global?
I want to scale it globally.
Okay.
So I think there's 380 Joe in the Juice. I want 400 Nullas.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Easy to roll out, low setup cost. So if someone's got, I'll give you an example. A Tashas can cost anything between 7 million and 10 million dirhams. Nala will cost 2.
Right.
So if someone wants to get involved in the food business, it's a nice entry. Simple to operate. Not a big stock list. Very focused menu. So much easier to scale.
Got you.
Yeah.
So then from all of your experience, Natasha, and you've seen this happen globally, now specifically within this region, in your opinion, what do you think it is that restaurateurs most of the time get wrong?
Focus too much on, certainly these days, they don't focus enough on product. I think there's we were having a workshop the other day because we like to audit and review what we're doing quite often. And we were saying, what can we hang our hats on? Well, there was a time where we could really hang our hats on interiors. Now, every restaurant that opens is spending a fortune on the interiors. And I think there's this experiential dining explosion that's come out that's got a couple into it. And there's definitely a space for it. It's not my style of operating because I come from old school restaurateuring and that's what I like to do. So we're not that type of place. Yes, Avli turns into a bit of a party and we might throw one party at Bungalow a year, but we're not the party place.
Sure.
But what we can certainly hang our hats on is product and hospitality. So I think what a lot of guys get wrong is they don't focus on training their staff. You don't always have to hire staff for experience, but you've got to invest a lot of money on training and motivating. And then product. You're actually selling food. You're not selling the table and the chair or the person who's coming to put on a show. People have come to eat. So it doesn't matter what the space looks like if the food's not good and the service is not good. So I think that there's been a shift in. It's definitely the gold rush of food and hospitality. You hear of huge deals being done and people selling their businesses and listing and doing all of these weird and wonderful things, which is great. And I don't mean weird, but it certainly is the gold rush of restaurateuring and restaurants. So a lot of people are looking at the restaurant business as a business, not as restaurateuring,
right?
Hospitality, food, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They're going to come to a place like Dubai, don't really have to focus on the food, put on a great show, spend millions on the interiors, and people will still come and they'll pay. Well, they're going to pay. They'll pay once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, but are they going to continue to frequent? And are you going to be around for ages? I think LPM's the best example for me. They do not get, they don't worry about what anyone else is doing. They have stayed true to who they are. There are no gimmicks. There's no frills. There's just unbelievable hospitality and fantastic food 13 years on. I was there the other night for dinner. We've got a fantastic relationship as neighbors. I had some of the best food I've had. Unbelievable hospitality. And that's what a restaurant is, really.
And it's no frills, right?
No frills. I don't have anyone coming to do weird and wonderful things at the table. Just good food.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree with you more. And again, as a chef, and I've been on the, I've done Michelin, I've done resorts, 5-star luxury, you name it. Okay, and the thing that I struggled the most when I first came to the Middle East was something or someone called the purchasing department. I had no idea who they were, and I didn't care who they were. I just wanted to order
the best food,
the products that I know, because I am the expert on the food.
Exactly.
You have no clue about the food.
Exactly.
So why are you getting involved? And I think having that fight specifically here happens a lot. And that's where a lot of the restaurateurs, chefs, they get demotivated because we have to continuously think about the money. Yes, and the bottom line. Well, whereas a restaurant is, as I said, it's a place of magic.
It's a place of magic, and you are selling food. You're not exactly going to go into a car showroom and buy a car without a wheel. So what are you selling? I'm selling, this is my product. This is what I sell. Or tennis racket that can't hit the ball.
Yeah.
I'm selling food. I mean, Nala is a perfect example. I said to Jill, you know what, I think the burger just, because we're in like we were supposed to be in dress rehearsal phase. That's why we're offering the 50% discounts until the 7th of Feb, because we're saying to people, give us feedback.
Okay.
So now I'm looking at the burger going out, and again, I've got an eye. I said, Jill, the burgers, I think the mince is not 100%. It seems a little bit dry. So I ordered a burger 2 days ago, bite it, tasty. I said, Jill, the mince not right. She says, no. We were, not Jill, procurement in our department. They want the food cost to be X. I said, I don't care what they want the food cost to be, because I make all the decision. Tell them I want the best mince, and if we don't make the correct margin on this product and we make a little bit less, I don't care. I just want it to be the best. Of course, there's a balance. I mean, you know, I'm not going to go and put the
respectfully, yes, of course.
There's got to be a balance, but I think it's product first, ingredients first. So, I mean, I had, and we've just done a JV. Nick, my chef, that used to work at Avli, Nick Haralambos, and he's opened. Well, he worked for me as a chef at Avli for 2 years. He helped us develop the menu. Came to me, said, Tash, listen, I want to connect with the provenance of the ingredients. I want to go back to Cape Town because I want to talk to the farmer. And obviously we don't have an opportunity to do that in Dubai, even though we can get whatever we want. So I said, Nick, I'm sad to leave you, but go. He says, will you mentor me? I said, absolutely, I'll mentor you. Starts to develop a little concept. He says, will you fly to Cape Town, help me look for a site? I said, of course I will. Puts the whole thing together. He says, how will I get the money? I said, how much is this thing going to cost? He said, give me the amount. I said, Nick, we'll go into partnership. I'll do it with you. And the delight to see someone who's connecting with his ingredients. He's just won Restaurant of the Year.
Wow. And
one to watch for 50 Best in Cape Town. Cape Town's also very competitive. We're bringing it to Dubai. We're going to open one here. Cypriot Greek food, but very small, like 50 seats, like a small store. But what you're telling me about ingredients, I think it's very important for chefs when they're working with a great quality product, with the best lemons and the best meats and the best chicken and the best tomatoes. But hard to make a horrible product.
Yes, yeah.
If the ingredients are good.
And you understand where it comes from.
And you understand how to treat them, and you understand where it comes from. Listen, we're blessed in Dubai. We can get whatever we want. You wake up in the morning and you feel like having whatever. When
I went to South Africa, I mean, the hospitality is phenomenal. The produce is incredible.
Just the produce is amazing.
I mean, it hands down.
It's farm to table.
Yeah.
You know, Nick's cheese, he's got a farm that makes his halloumi fresh, and then they bring it to him in the morning. So when you're in Cape Town, you've got to try it out. It's called Uzeri.
Now, Natasha, before we get into the sort of quick fire questions, one of the last questions I wanted to ask you is, where do you see the future of dining in the MENA region?
I am delighted to see the amount of local Emiratis coming up with their own concepts and their own brands. So I think we're going to see much more of that. They travel a lot. They understand trends. They get food. I think there's a lot more going into hospitality who want to get involved in hospitality. So I think that will continue to happen. I think all the big name brands will continue to come here. It'll be interesting to see who succeeds and who actually stands the test of time, or who's going to be, you know, the flash in the pan trend for a little bit of time. I think those who are backed by serious operators will continue to do well. Do I think there's going to be a saturation point? At one point I did, but I mean, with the way the population is growing, I think the demand will always be there. People who are serving a good quality product will last. I think we are going to see a lot more chef-led brands, like what I'm doing now with Nick from Uzeri. He's the hero. I'm just bringing the operational excellence to the back end, but Nick's going to shine.
Right.
So I think we'll see that, a lot of chef-led brands. Yeah, I think exciting times for the region. I think it's just really started. I mean, I do worry about the very huge big boxes that open and how they will survive. You know, like 500 seats, 600 seats. I think the ones who are excellent will definitely continue to do well, but it's not something that we are used to doing.
I just think it's such
frightened of it.
Monster phenomenal numbers, and also not just from from the food or ops perspective, you've got the staffing costs, you've got the overheads. I mean, it's
hectic.
Yeah.
I know I've heard some of the numbers coming out of some of the places that have just opened it's amazing. And long may it last. And I think actually for the good operators, it will last.
Right.
I think the ones who really know what they're doing, it'll last. Because there's a demand for everything in Dubai.
True.
There's the guy who wants to have a bit of street food. There's a guy who wants to go and have fast casual. There's the people who want to go to a family style restaurant. There's the people who don't want to go to a beach club and would like to go to a bungalow. But then there's the guys who want to party and go to the beach club. So I think we've got a mix of population. But for me, the most exciting is to see what the Emirati entrepreneurs are bringing to the food scene, because they are doing some amazing things. You've got to look at the success of bakery, the success of, I know them, I don't know if they are Emirati, but what the guys from Orfaili have done. I mean, it's just like the guys from Goldfish, the stuff that gets developed in country that we can take to the rest of the world. I mean, I've developed Avli here and Bungalow here. Those are homegrown, but I'm saying even more so than that. I'm talking about the Emiratis who are doing amazing things in food, and the Saudis actually.
Now, for the quick fire questions, I've got some real belters for you. First of all, I have to ask, because I ask everyone, what's your favorite ingredient?
Yogurt.
Yogurt.
Love yogurt.
Straight off the bat there. Pickled or spicy?
Pickled.
Souvlaki or hot dog?
Oh no, that's unfair. That's totally unfair. Hangover, I'm going for the hot dog. Daily, a souvlaki.
Tzatziki or tarama salata?
Tarama. But can't be the fluorescent one. It's got to be the real tarama,
Now,
and it's funny because I love yogurt with everything, but if I have to choose as a dip on the tzatziki goes with, you're going to have meats or actually ladera, which is like the oily food. You put a dollop of yogurt on it. It just makes it lighter and fresher. But tarama with a piece of bread. You know, tzatziki's got to go with food. Tarama on a slice of bread, amazing.
It is amazing. Now, if we're talking about right this second, Natasha, can you tell me your top 3 favorite cuisines to eat?
Asian, specifically Thai. I love Thai food because I like the lemongrassy coriander.
Yeah.
I like those bursts of fresh flavors. Greek, of course.
100%.
Love. But not only the grills, because a lot of people think Greek food's just the grills. I like the very homey, delicious, again, the oily foods, the vegetarian foods. Oh my God, nothing beats a double cheeseburger and chips.
Well,
nothing.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised to not hear double chocolate milkshake in that.
With chips and a double chocolate milk. You got to have the combo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, who would you say are your top 3 culinary heroes? And they don't necessarily need to be chefs.
Donna Hay. What a legend. Still relevant. Hasn't changed from her style. Super classic. Neil Perry. Oh, what a legend. Can do meat, can do cafe style food, can do unbelievable Asian. I think he's humble. I actually met him. It was the only time that I was like mumbling. I was like, I think he's. I love his aesthetic, his cookbooks, and the late Bill Granger for cafe style food. I think is amazing. I mean, obviously there's the greats, the Gordons and the Marcos and all of those, but those 3 are my style. But Neil Perry and Donna Hay, I think, as a food stylist, a chef, and her sensibility that hasn't changed. God, she's been around for over 20 years. Yeah. And when you pick up a Donna Hay cookbook, it's still got it. It's got the X factor. So she stood the test of time.
So from all of your time as an operator in and out of the kitchen, now you've given us some incredible stories, but what would you say is the funniest kitchen or restaurant story that you've seen or been involved in?
Or that I've pranked
or
myself.
You've pranked.
Okay.
And you could name names, not name names.
I will name names. So my brother and I are opening Tashas in Constantia Village in the beautiful winelands of the Cape. Serene environment. Tashas is chaos as usual. thank God. And we are running queues. My brother's now, we've reversed roles. I'm front of house, he's back of house, he's calling the orders. The dockets that have, they come out, you're a chef, and they come out the printer like, and you hear that machine, it's like, oh my God, can it stop? And then he's holding the slips in his hand, he's got them like crunched in his hand like this, calling the orders. The night before, I've gone to the fancy dress shop, and I have bought, my brother's very protective of me, he's my younger brother. I bought pixie ears, okay? Plastic ones, but they're very realistic. And it's lunchtime, it's chaos. So I go to the bathroom, I put the pixie ears on, and I'm holding my ears like this. I'm like, Sava, help me, there's something wrong with me. I'm stressed, I don't know what's happened. He's like, guys, stop cooking, my sister, stop. And he's got these slips in the machine, going, go. And I go, what happened to your ears? What happened? You mean customers rushing into the kitchen? And I think that's one of the funniest stories ever. I brought the kitchen to a grinding halt. I had to bring a bit of humor because it was heated.
Oh my God.
And another one, my brother was calling the pass at Melrose and going crazy. And we had told the staff to toast the burgers, the burger buns, toast them, and they didn't. And I saw him like crumpling the burger buns in his hand, and they were like, And the next minute, a card comes to the kitchen, and the sous chef grabs the card and puts it in his pocket. And he's like, what was that? No, Sava, it's nothing. What was it? He says, nothing. Let's just get through service. So they get through service. He says, Nick, what was that? And the woman gives a card, and it's a psychologist. And at the back, she says, I think you need some help.
Oh.
I think you need some help. Thank God he didn't get it during service. Anyway, I've got lots of war stories. Lots and lots.
What advice would you give to a 16-year-old Natasha Sideris?
Spend more time with your parents. I've lost both my mom and my dad. My dad died at 57. He got pancreatic cancer when he was 54, so he only saw Athelbert with Melrose Morning. He saw four of the restaurants. He didn't even see the Dubai story. My mom passed away at 62, and I've been grinding away at this food business for the better part of 30 years. Started when I was straight out of school, 18, 19, started helping, when I went to varsity, started helping my dad, and got so focused and hooked on what I was doing, and then started building the business of Tashas, that I didn't spend enough time with him. And I would say that even though there is no work-life balance, you have to carve out time for the people that you love. And it's my biggest regret. If I could, I'd give everything up to have some time with them. So that would be the advice.
Now, the final piece, Natasha. We have a lot of young restaurateurs, chefs, people who are not even in the industry, and they look at someone like yourself who makes it look easy. Now, what advice would you give those people who want to go down the path of eventually opening a restaurant business?
Okay, so it's not easy is the first thing. And whenever you see someone who's successful, you got to know that they've hustled, unless they're into tech and even then, because I don't understand that business, but maybe someone's hit a lucky idea. But nine times out of 10, if someone's been very successful in their career, they have had to grind to get there. So my advice is, it's not easy. If you've got a great idea, stress test it, but don't let people give you too much advice so that you go off the path, because everyone's got an opinion. If I had listened to business books, or I had listened, my dad, when I developed the Tashas menu, and he was a chef, and he said, "Are you mad? This is too big, this menu." And he said, how are you going to make all of this food? You have to do a lot of mise en place. I said, Dad, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make everything on order. I'm going to cut every tomato, every fruit, grill every... He said, you must be out of your mind. But I did it. So I think if you've got a good idea and you really believe in it, go for it. Don't be afraid to take risks, and accept that it's going to be super tough. You're going to have good days and bad days. You've got to ride the bad ones. And you just got to have tenacity and just go for it, because it's not going to be easy. It isn't easy. So anyone out there who's looking at Tashas Group and thinking, oh my God, Tasha came to Dubai and it just happened. Didn't just happen. It's hard slog. So they got to. No one loves to work hard, but they've got to love what they do.
Phenomenal advice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Natasha, what I'm going to do is for all of the socials and all of that sort of thing, I'm going to put all of that in the show notes.
Okay.
So if people wanted to get hold of you through the accounts,
Perfect.
they will, and they do so. Now, I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
For taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to be here, because I know you've got lots going on. I want to say I personally love your drive.
Thank you.
Which is, really focused. I was thinking of an analogy, and I'm just like, you're just like, the Japanese bullet trains, precise to the point.
Shame.
Thank
you.
And they're incredible.
Thank you.
But from all of us here at the Chef JKP Podcast, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, and I've loved the chats because you asked some really great, engaging questions, and the 2 hours feels like it's like been 5 minutes. So
been nice
thank
and
you.
straightforward. But,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, what an incredible conversation with the formidable Natasha Sideris. Her journey from humble beginnings to creating an international restaurant empire is nothing short of inspiring. Her energy is also super infectious. You can tell she loves all things to do with restaurants and art, but above all, she also understands that her team and family are the ones who have helped her to live her dreams. And by the way, I managed to get my hands on a couple of her books, and my God, they are things of absolute beauty. Now, if today's episode is making you feel motivated, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You never miss a beat. And if you loved this chat just as much as I did, go ahead and leave us a little 5-star review. Your support helps to bring out the best in everything that we do. A huge thank you once again to Natasha for sharing her stories. And as always, if you want to see more of what she is doing, I'll share the links in all of the show notes. If you enjoy this show or know someone you know could learn from our guests, then you know what to do. Please share away. You never know, as these conversations might inspire someone to take action and become the very best at what they do. So, my culinary brothers and sisters, keep spreading the word. One last thing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of the show, you absolute legends. Until next time, food is memories.